IBA gloves are off video.
The lights are on, but you're not home. You're man, it's not your wrong. The gloves are off. So mate, can you believe that? It's come up to 2 years since
2 years next week.
we started IBA.
Crazy times there.
Do you remember when we were in Norman's? And like, I'd say like that was probably like our first meeting, like Keegan landed in and we were sort of discussing. Do you remember?
I think our first official talk about it was after the football.
Yeah, well, obviously you did the football up at Power League and I approached you because I felt that it would it World Cup year or Euro year? It would international tournament year, but I felt that there was scope to take that further, but also behind it, unifying the sort of Leeds industry in regular sporting activities.
100%. I think that football tournament for me was at first a little bit of a marketing tool for the company that I was working for, but it really, I think that was the first one that I did when we first started talking, and it sort of, rather than it being a marketing tool, it sort of transpired into actually the industry getting together and really and doing something that's not based on the usual let's go out and get hammered, let's go out and, or even just cocktail competitions or anything like that, anything that involves booze. It's actually doing something that's good for your heart and good for your body.
And also it still keeps that competitive edge as well.
100%.
So I at that point I was just merely somebody who was taking part in it, so to speak, from that side of it. It was good to see people you might see across the bar, but obviously challenge yourself in a football capacity.
Totally, because everybody in the Leeds industry are best of friends. Everybody loves each other. When you put a little bit of competition in between them, we want to be the best. Like, each bar wants to win and take that trophy home. And I think that's where, obviously, following that event, and we had more talks. The idea was to do more football events and see where we could take that really, and see where we could sort of challenge the industry more. We sat down, didn't we, and we talked about all sorts.
Well, yeah, man, we were a few. I mean, should we let a couple out of bag? Because there were darts. I still think darts could work.
100%. There's a darts bar opening around the corner. So.
There's definitely maybe future IBE darts. But I remember you said to me boxing, and it didn't initially like strike the chord in my head. But I feel like that's because in your younger days you used to be involved in that world, so you sort of knew the world, how people would take to it.
Yeah, and I know how events like that work, how events like ours work, and it's actually an idea that's sort of been playing on my mind, or had been playing on my mind since I started working in bars 13 years ago. Because at that time I was massive into kickboxing, I was training, I was fighting on a regular. And then obviously I fell in love with the industry as well, so it was like two loves. And I remember going to one fight night in Oceana, when it was Oceana, and it was, I went there to see a friend of ours, Keegan, and he was fighting, and it was, I can't remember the exacts, but it was like a doorman's competition, and it was boxing and Thai boxing, I think. And yeah, I just had this idea, it was like, bartenders should do it. Because it's an event like that, people go and they absolutely love it, they get hyped up, people just have a good time. So yeah, that was years and years and years ago, and then obviously it never sort of transpired, so we went to, and then I started the football, and then we got talking about it, really took off.
Yeah, I remember speaking, and you were just like, you feel that people would take part, but more so that people would be up for watching it. And I had a couple of apprehensions in the sense of how would the crowd be? Would it be quite volatile because of the nature of it? But I think once we got discussing the exciting part of who potentially might step forward for it, and you put a few feels out, sprinkles out, and people were coming back, everybody was speaking.
The interest was massive.
Well, the interest was huge.
As soon as we put one little post out.
But I'd say what I'd add to that is that the way that the shout-outs were going out, it never felt like threatening or intimidating. It was always from a joyous, banterful point. Yeah. And I feel like at the very start of IBE's origin, that's something that's really been special to the nucleus of how we proceeded. It's like, for an essential white collar boxing event, it's completely different in the way that it's run and the way that it feels at events. It feels like it's completely friendly. It does get raucous, but everybody's there for one another.
I think that's what makes it all unique, because there's 100 other white collar boxing events out there, and they're aimed at Joe Public, so anybody can turn up, and that means any Tom, Dick and Harry can come from wherever, and then there's no real love there. And making it sort of special to our industry, that's what I believe stops that bad stigma around the event. Well, I think we've done 7 events now, 6 events, and we've not had one issue. One issue, and I think that's genuinely down to the love of our industry and the love between each other.
And the respect between each other as well. I definitely hear that. I tell you as well, though, I also feel a massive factor to us is that when we got speaking about ideas and stuff, and we knew it was going to be a charity event going forward, and I mentioned that rather than just having a lead charity, it would be worth having the actual participants, the fighters involved, them having their personal charities as well. That was a great addition. I think that's been such a boost and a nod, because, you know, moving on, hearing why people are doing it for specific causes. Like, we never could have imagined, like, the stories that we've heard and the reasons why people are doing it, and that's what blows me out.
It's dead personal. I think that whole, like we go back to other white collar businesses, and they have one charity that they look after, and it's not personal. And I think that was a great addition of yours to allow our participants to really get involved with their own charities, and speak about what them charities mean to them. It's all right us selecting charities, and we have our reasons to select charities, but to get them to select their own and share the reasons.
That's it. I mean, I know we're sort of going to be coming up to our first event, but we didn't actually do this for the first event, but your introduction of press conferences, which I think got to have one of them because it adds to it, the banter that goes before. Also a shout out to Brotherhood, who's had us as a base for like the press conferences. But when you hear people speak about it, and like people get properly raw and open up and give us that real like insight into the life that you know, you might see him across the bar, you don't know like what's happened. I mean, not to get into too much detail, but we've heard a lot across the spectrum of, you know, black people's families, areas, upbringings. You know, they've given us a proper light into why they're doing it.
And also on the flip side, it's given us opportunities to work with charities that we didn't even know existed, which are amazing charities. I feel obviously we didn't introduce the press conferences until the second event. But before that, I still think it's amazing to give people that platform to share, and it's just on Facebook and just give it. But that's essentially what the press conference is for, isn't it? Just to make them those situations where people are sharing their stories, sort of have everyone in the room while they're discussing it.
It's mad, mate. You get chills sometimes when people speak.
It's not even just the fact that they're sharing the stories, it's the fact that we've got 50 other people in the room sat down listening to them stories and applauding them for them reasons, and selecting them charities.
I mean, up until this point, what have we done?
In terms of?
For the amount of charities and raised?
I think we're on around 45k, but we've not fully totted up because we've had some fires not give us the volumes yet, so it's around 45k. For around 65 different charities. That's not including this upcoming event. Because we've actually, I think after sort of event 4 or 5, we were dealing with charities that have been selected before, because you're going to run out of charities eventually.
But then that's good to see as well.
Ones, but then it's like, I think we've got 3 or 4 different charities in event number 7 coming up that we've not dealt with before, or we've not supported before, which I think is amazing.
It is class to see that you do, you know, you get new ones, but also it does highlight particular areas that people within the industry want to focus on when, you know, charities like Mind keep coming back up.
That's got to be the most constant one, isn't it?
Do you remember when building on to like the running up to the first event, I remember speaking to people who were taking part, and the way that they were switching the diets, and they were like, they were almost like, the training took over, the lifestyle changed over, the impact that it had really surprised me, how much people were like, not just gravitating to like the event, but exactly got on board, and it proper like, it changed like their outlook of what they wanted to do with the fitness area. Did you ever think that that was something, because that was at the birth what we wanted to do, but we can't like guide people, we can't set the horse to water, as they say.
I think yeah, good phrase. I think the whole competition aspect, like getting back to starting at the football side of things, the people that really got on board of my first event really took to training, because I mean, we say it in the training for every event we do, but you don't want to turn up and step in front of a ring and then get battered by someone who works in a bar opposite you.
Yeah.
I think that's the initial sort of reason why people get involved and why people step up the training and really get on board with it.
It takes balls.
Of course it does. I've had many fights in rings, and like the training aspect is so important. You don't want to get in a ring and gas, do you?
I mean,
like I did.
see what you did there. I was going to try like stay away from that, but like you've been in the ring as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I was in the ring, obviously. I used to fight. I fought all over the world kickboxing, but then through a certain call out from a certain friend of mine, I had to step back in on event number 2 at the town hall. But yeah, I was case in point for that exact point as to why training is so important. I went into that fight with Dom, who, shout out to Dom, who's been integral in the training and the coaching part of our event since. But I went into that sort of with my mind focused on the event itself and how I was going to run the event. Didn't really pay enough attention to my own training, my own fitness. I believe that I beat him in the first round. But yeah, then my gas tank went, and I think that's why training is so important, and why our participants and the bartenders and whatnot, it's so important for them to get in. So yeah, and I obviously lost my gas tank with in that fight with Dom, and yeah, and getting back to that point, training is so important. Nobody wants to do that, especially in front of their friends. So yeah, and get fighters who are signing up to be part of our event. The majority of them take the training very, very seriously, especially in that first event. But yeah, it was very, very good.
Well, let's lean on the training, because I mean that's your world. You proper like own that, and you see the development. You see how people go through. I mean, I'm going to sort of touch on how maybe the nerves are there, but how people push through, and also a shout out to the places that we've done our training at as well.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, from the first event, we approached a few different gyms, and we landed on choosing to work with Golden Team, based down on Hunslet Road. So a massive shout out to Padraig, who runs that gym. It's a very successful gym. It produces champions, and it has done for years. Pete's a champion himself, so working with them guys was pretty special. So yeah, for the first event we used them. For the first 5 events we've used them. But yeah, when people sign up and they come down to the training, I think we had a mix of people who'd done a little bit of training before in terms of boxing training, but the majority, 90% of people who sign up are novices. So they've never thrown a punch before. They've never thrown a punch before in a street fight. Never thrown a punch before in a boxing ring. Like, never even hit a bag before. Or hit a pair of pads before. So yeah, there is an element of nerves there, but I think people genuinely just want to learn. They don't want to go into a fight with no knowledge.
Do you think that it's a fitness element, or do you think it's a fighting element? What do you think drives people to want to get into ropes, away from the charity side?
I think it's a definite mix of both. Obviously, like we said before, there's not many events out there that involve health and well-being and the general fitness of people of our industry. So yeah, the fitness side of it's massive. but I genuinely think it's a competition. I think, especially as events have gone on, we've had more and more call-outs. People just want to get in there and compete and be part of the event that's sort of unique to this industry.
So do you see that week in, week out when the sparring gets cracking?
When training first starts at every event, and especially at like the first event or the first couple of events, you get people in there, and then I remember watching Ebby on the floor one day doing sit-ups, and it was just hilarious. It's because it's all new to them. But yeah, they'll get in, and even when they start hitting pads, and they'll say sorry to each other. It's like they'll hit and they'll apologise, but then, and I'm constantly telling them, don't apologise, you're not going to apologise in a ring. But yeah, that aspect of watching them sort of develop over the 8 to 10 weeks, depending on which event it is, it's quite phenomenal, really. And that's what brings me most pride in the event, I think.
What's it like in the switch from them training to them finding out who they're going to be taking on and still training with them?
I think there's just more of a competitive edge. Like, there's no bad blood ever. There's no bad blood. It's not like in the real world of fighting or the real world of boxing, where you know you're fighting months before and you just have this vision of wanting to kick their head in. Whereas some fighters know who they're fighting, especially in that first event. There was a lot of call-outs, wasn't there? So it was easy to sort of match up some fights. But for the ones that didn't know and then they find out at a later date, there's just so much love there. So the training, I'd say it steps up because they know who's in front of them, especially if they believe that person is sort of in front of them ability-wise.
Are they sizing one another up?
Oh, 100%. I think that's just natural instinct, so. You'd do that in any sport, wouldn't you? But yeah, it does step up training, and they do, especially because the first couple of weeks, and we do training 2 to 3 times a week, and if some people will come to all of them sessions, and some people will be like, oh, I'll miss this one, come to the next one. But as soon as their names are called, you get more definiteness at training, and training ups.
Awesome. So let's take it back to the Corn Exchange. So that was our first venue.
Yeah.
Our first event. I remember when we went and met with Adam, we proposed the idea. Shout out Adam Warner, he was up for it. It was iconic, wasn't it? Like the setting downstairs. I just remember like being nervous, like not knowing A, how many people would come, B, if the people who'd signed up to take part would actually go through with it.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, we can place everything together, but we didn't know how the night would we had a vision of how it would flow, but we'd never orchestrated it before.
There was definite nerves there, but there was more excitement in the build up to it. The bit that that sticks in my mind was the day of setup.
Yeah.
And seeing, because that space downstairs in the Corn Exchange is amazing, and we've walked in there hundreds, thousands of times just in our lifetime of being in Leeds, so we know exactly what it looks like. But then watching the guys erect the ring, it's like, wow, this is going to be pretty special. I remember just taking probably about an hour of taking different snaps on my phone, walking around and getting different angles. But that's the moment for me that I became really nervous about at night and wanting it to sort of succeed, and then worrying about how many people are going to get through the door, whether it's going to be a success, whether people are going to come and enjoy it. And obviously they did. And moving to later on in that night, I met people that night who've been part of Leeds industry for as long as I have that I didn't really know, and now we're like best of mates. Sophia being the main one, massive shout out to Sophia, Rubella. Can't thank her enough for what she's done for us guys. But yeah, that was the first time I really met Sophia, and she's been in these 17 years, so that's what sticks with me for that night.
Yeah, shout out Sophia. I also remember just looking round and like just the expression in people's eyes, like it was electric. Do you know what I mean? It was like the energy in that room was insane. I remember getting in my salmon red tux, strutting about, and I remember the beauty of like the Corn Exchange is the way that the stairs went was a natural walkway, and it was just regal. That moment will always stick out with me. And like, you know, you had people on the top balcony watching, you had people downstairs.
I think to agree on that point, like one thing that really sort of makes a point valid is when we look back at the photos of that night, like some of the best photos are the crowd shots. And there's that crowd shot of Cliffy's table with Jack and Dazzler, and they're all just stood like just screaming at the ring. Like that's the best photo of that event. And then there's that little video of Paul from King Cobra, and he's just doing his own thing, dancing around the ring. It's like that just sticks to that point, doesn't it? That the atmosphere was actually electric.
Yeah, I mean, the aftermath of that, people generally buzzing, keen to know when the next date was, like wanting to get involved, like actually like take part in it again. It were overwhelming, like in a real good way. It was overwhelming. It was like, okay, we've nailed this. Where next? And then obviously where next became arguably the beacon of Leeds.
Again, through Sophia, introduced us to Leeds Lord Mayor Jane Dowson.
Do you remember when we got a full squad down to Civic Quarter?
Yeah, in the lead up to that.
Yeah. So anybody who was like sort of involved or helping us round and about,
even just
or any other participants, like we had a good team.
We had managers of bars. We had managers of bars that weren't even involved. Just wanted to come and see what we were about.
It was a proper like. It was nice to feel like the industry on that platform, because for me, I find that sometimes the city, as in like the powers that be, can like be really stringent on like the nightlife side of things, yet celebrate the nightlife to get people there. But as soon as there's a noise complaint, I just shell it down. So it was interesting. We're having a cup of tea with Lord Mayor, and we brought that up, and she was really interested, man. And
it's because her background was hospitality, though.
Yeah.
So she really knows what it means to be part of this industry, really, in Leeds.
But it was good to see like the centre focus been on the industry, and then man. What are your thoughts of the town hall? Because like even when I walk past the town hall now, I still give it a little nod. Do you know what I mean? I give it a little salute, because it's like I personally, you know, as a budding stand-up comedian, you know, I think of the heads that have performed there. I think of the people that have graced that stage.
On the boxing level.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's insane to think like the people that have graced that. And for us, the industry to take over one night, ram that building out and be able to do it our way, like that's a proper testament. Second event, but just been local lads, you know what I mean? Repping bits, you know what I mean? With boys in manor. To be able to do something. I remember trying to blag in to see Jack Whitehall there, mate. Like trying to say I were on his guest list, and we went through and
who are you?
Who were you, like? Yeah, I mean, and I had to watch it behind the pillar. Like, I was just like peering behind, and you know what I mean, man? Like 8 months later,
so like it was a bit scary in the lead up to that, because the capacity. So we had between 500 and 600 people at Corn Exchange, and the capacity for town hall was 1,400.
Yeah, they had different back caves, didn't there? All these different rooms.
Yeah, different rooms. Which I think when we were looking around, we were like, we could have people sat here, we could have people sat here.
We'll have 15 bars up there. And
That was the original plan, wasn't it? But we went to. So when we went in there, and it was like I think we did 50% more people in the event itself. I think we had around 900 people through the doors, which is unbelievable to look at. Obviously, if we'd have had more, we'd have had upstairs open, but that backdrop with that organ in the background, and obviously the tiered seats on this side of the ring, was like, it'd be hard to replicate that sort of background.
Well, you say like, I mean, Corn Exchange for the shots were incredible, but for me, I got to walk down the stairs. I did my Facebook Live, and like the roar of that room, like I feel like the lower ceilings, even though Corn Exchange's got higher ceiling, the best ceiling in the world, but they were I just feel like something inside really resonated with like Level Up here. Like it generally felt
at the town hall.
Yeah,
definitely.
Generally felt
the
like
back that, and
even as a personal accolade.
To this day, looking back, I keep going back to to photos and memories of each event. But to this day, my favourite photo of any of our events is that photo of you behind the ring. So you're in the ring and you've got the crowd with the torches on the phones held up and the camera behind you, mate. That picture is unreal, and that just sums up Town Hall really, because that crowd was unbelievable.
It was mad, and I think like that were our second event.
Plus we had the after party.
Yeah, Iberica shot Iberia, that was alright after party.
Yeah.
But it was proper Gatsby vibes.
Yeah.
But I'd say the fallout from the Town Hall was like, it really put us on the map. I think it solidified us as it wasn't just a one-time fluke, or you know, it's got longevity in the actual event itself, the idea of it, showing to us that more people wanted to get involved, even people who took part before. It could have sort of been like a rocket in a glass ceiling though, you know, because we've reached such a height straight away. Where do we go from there? And like, it could have pulled like the steam out of our momentum. But what I felt it did is it really like got other cities paying attention to it. It really got not just the Leeds industry, but you know, I'm fortunate to have a good affiliation with the Manchester side, Liverpool, you know, London even, and a few
from
heads.
Sheffield contacting us, we have people from Newcastle contacting us. It's
People
just sort of
from the biggest form of flattery is we had someone trying to rip us, didn't we?
Let's not go into that. Oxygen. Nah, we did like. I mean, that gets onto sponsors, I suppose. We've approached a lot of drinks brands to be sponsors of the events, and someone did try to rip us. But do you know what? It is a big form of flattery, isn't it? So. But yeah, going from the Town Hall, which was so big.
That's what she said. And then no sponsors. You were on sponsors.
Yeah, I said.
I think you were going to big up
Rocks.
Bacardi and Rocks.
Yeah, so
because you said box of gin, and then we went.
So yeah, just going on to sponsors. I'd like to say a massive shout out and a massive thank you to our first official drinks sponsor. I think we were first.
Yeah.
It was Bacardi Brown-Forman who helped us put together that
At Town Hall.
at the event at the Town Hall. So massive shout out to them. And obviously, moving from that event, it's sort of allowed us to approach.
Well, we had a physical like brand. Like before, it was like, you know,
an idea.
It was an idea, but then seeing it form and then seeing the excitement, and also it's not just the excitement; it's who really got it for us. Like, I mean, I think you'd agree, like the sponsors that we've had, and you know, we've got a long, well working relationship with. Like, they were there front and centre. They understood it. They got it, and they were invested not only in the brand but in the idea, in us as what we were producing for industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think the original idea for us was to get, with being the drinks industry, was to get actual drinks brands constantly as sponsors. But what we found, not through really trying, is that people that want to build that relationship with us and want to continually sponsor us are actually sites and venues that fighters work for, that our participants work for. Some that don't, and they're the ones that have stuck. So again, massive thank you to Roxy Leisure as it is now, because they've got so many sites. Massive shout out to them.
Shout out to Bunderbust as well.
Yeah, 100%. They're the two guys, well, two businesses that have continually supported us from what was the next event after the Town Hall. So yeah.
Well, proceeding from the Town Hall, and obviously with the eyes of looking to grow the brand in a sense of presence, it felt like we wanted to take it across the Pennines and see how it was like received over there.
Yeah, I mean, because we got a few heads from over that way approach us and said it'd be great. And we always had the idea, didn't we, to go that way and to go to different cities. I mean, I still want to grow to different cities in the future. But obviously Manchester's the powerhouse of the north, as they say in the industry, isn't it? other than Leeds. But it is in the industry, that's what they call it. So yeah, it was just a natural progression, I think, following our successes at the Town Hall to take it across there.
Well, I think obviously once you've nailed the like building of the Town Hall, because again, one of our main things is that we always want to do it in iconic or you know, jaw-dropping. Yeah. What was that word again?
Grandeur.
What was that word again? Grandeur? You blazing, bruv. No, grandeur of the buildings, but like, yeah, man, like, and yeah, the venue we found in Manchester was unbelievable, weren't it?
Yeah.
So we found Victoria Baths. Also, people, fans of Peaky Blinders will know that they've done a fair few scenes there.
How good was that day when we got that tour around that building?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm such a stan, me, like, I think like I'm proper stanhead, you know, like a fan, like over top fan.
Yeah,
and,
walking
like,
into that room where you just know that's where Tommy Shelby stood
and pointing
and bought a horse and bought Grace's Secret.
Grace's Secret.
And then walking down those steps down that corridor where, no, sorry, the corridor first. Where
spoiler alert.
Everyone's seen it now. Where Arthur's died in season 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it's just everything's so recognisable, and going down the steps and seeing the
because they still had the set, didn't they?
Yeah, downstairs. Yeah, they had the fake bars on the wall.
Where the priest, where Paddy Constantine goes to Tommy and tries to scare him with the dog. Yeah. And we got a bit more of a peaky walking us, didn't we?
Yeah, of course it did. And then we saw that sign. Do you remember that sign, that bakery sign? It was from Alfie Solomon's bakery.
Yeah.
Sick.
So obviously we got run over with like the accolades of it being where Peaky Blinders were, but even taking that aside, the venue were unbelievable. It was staggeringly beautiful.
How it looked from outside and in. That room, the old Victorian baths. Have we even said what it's called yet?
Yeah, Victoria Baths, bro.
The old Victorian baths, the one obviously the idea initially, I think when we saw it online, was to do it inside the old pool.
Yeah.
But then when we went to see it, obviously the swimming pool's got a slanted floor, so it wouldn't work with a boxing ring in there, so we had to use the one that's had the floor covered over. But still, that room was unbelievable.
The event itself was class as well, weren't it?
Yeah, I think on a different level, it was the best one to date. I mean, you could say that about every single event, though.
Yeah, I think there's facets of each one that you'd like to stitch together.
Yeah.
But I'd say for an opening like calling card of here we are, you know, Manchester took to it, and I felt like the bouts that happened, I think we'd got into his rhythm by that point. As you know, it's mad to think that was 3 events in. But it felt like
we'd already been running in Town Hall.
Do you know what I mean? But it felt like we were more assured in ourselves. But obviously, we're still learning, we're still developing, we're still formulating what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. I think as each event's gone on, and up to that event, going into the first Manchester event was like how the event itself was run. Like you say, it's just we're assured in itself, and we're just more confident in we know what we're doing. And I think it's got even better since. Definitely in terms of how the event was run and put together because obviously we'd only brought the filming aspect into it, and after we didn't have that on the first event, did we? So we had all that, and the lighting and the music and sound. We just know how it was put together.
Steps up.
Yeah,
I'd say that's one thing, is like, we've always wanted to up our game with the production. I feel like IBE, ourselves, like, we want to give so much, like, that's not just on the night, not just received on the night, that people can go find us online or elsewhere and still like have those moments taken away. For example, the participants, fighters, they get their bouts after and stuff like that. So I feel like it's just this like, it's like a picnic. It's like a picnic, mate. Like, do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's a basket of goods that, like, I think anyone who takes part, you know, they could be like 30 years down the line, 50 years down the line. That sounds cheesy, but like showing the grandkids, like, oh, this is what I did, or like it's a proper, like, it's a moment, isn't it, that's documented, and that's what I love. And I felt like the Victoria Baths one really like because the town hall came with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But Victoria Bass reseeked that extra stuff to still give it that regal feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that point. I think the fact that fighters can go away with it and just feel immensely proud. I think it makes us proud to know that they're proud. Do you know what I mean?
Heather Smalls. What have you done today to make me feel proud?
Yeah.
I mean, man, Victoria Bass was a moment, and then that subtly, because of the Peaky Blinders link, then gave us our idea to come to our first birthday
last November, yeah.
Which was a Peaky Blinders theme. Now, personally, that's my favourite event.
Really?
Yeah, first church one. That's my favourite event because
I see why. Because, like, for me, a year down the line, and it would be event number 4, wouldn't it? Birthday.
It's my life number as well. And little things to know about me.
I think with it being a year down the line, and then like when we were setting up at church and seeing like the ring get erected and just seeing it all come together, I was like, oh, this, like that nerve setting again. And then the crowd that we had at that event was like, it was like Corn Exchange times 10.
It was the balmiest. It was
I think because of how it was set up with the VIPs on the left, and then like the tables around, and then the standing section, it just sort of like, and the balcony above, yeah, and it just sort of, it brought a real like, everyone's on top of each other, but in a really, not in like an aggressive, in an intimate way. Yeah.
I tell you what it gave to me, it had that, it had the setting of the town hall, but in a more condensed way.
It was very similar layout.
Yeah, and for me, like, you know, we what still baffles my head, but I love it, and I get it, but obviously being this side of the fence in the sense of putting on an event, it's like people still wanting to know about that event because every event's unique, every event's different, there's always bouts that may stand out to people, but at that point, we'd gone a year. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'd gone a year, but we'd gone a year in a point where, you know, we'd learned a lot, as we were just saying at the Victoria Bass one, and it felt like our first birthday. It was like big boy pants, and it was like, do you know what I mean? It was like, we've got the production, we know what we're doing now, this is kick-ass, let's get involved. And like, for that, I remember being in the ring at that event, because you had the stage behind, the ring just in front, and I just remember as I was speaking on the mic, and you had heads like Keach and that up at the top, like bellowing down, and you're just looking out, and it was just rammed, and it would just like, that was the moment where it was like, we've made it in my head.
But it made it flip on the other side, like being in with the crowd and on the tables, that again, that backdrop of that big circular lighting making that big stained glass window.
Yeah, the stained glass window.
And having the big IB logo on the screen behind, like next level.
Shout out Bearer.
Yeah, massive shout out to Dave Beer, sorting that out for us.
Yeah, that was my favourite, man. I just.
Do you think as well at that sort of stage, I think we've touched on like how we've got the production side sort of down at that point. But another thing that sort of got a lot easier and got a lot better in my respect was the matchmaking. It just became a lot easier for me to, because obviously I do that in the training, and it's always, I mean, one hindrance of the event is people who, after a certain amount of training, can't carry on for whatever reason, and I'd say especially with girls, matching up girls has always been difficult, was always difficult, and getting them involved in the first place. But I think now we've got more and more interest, and the matchmaking, I think the fights have got better.
Well, you talked to us about that because, for example, people who may want to take part in future ones, that might be quite nerve-wracking. You know, they might think that they're going to get matched up with somebody who's, I don't know, either physically in better shape or maybe better techniques. So how can you just rest people assured?
I think the other way we can sort of rest people's minds on that one is, I think we're lucky enough now to be in a position where we're on event number 7, and the interest has grown massively over the last 2 years. So yeah, people do come into training nervous about who they're getting matched with, but no one will ever be matched with somebody that is one of a complete different weight or size or height. There is some mismatches, or there has been some, but I think we've ironed them out simply because we've had so much more interest. So it's just easier to match people, really. And the fact that when we do our training sessions, we offer 10 weeks training, and we don't just get the people that are selected for that event. We always have reserves. If people do drop out, it's just easier to fill gaps, really. But yeah, like I think now we're in a position where like I'm really, really comfortable with matchmaking, and one, it goes on, like I say, size and weight, and most of all ability. I think we've been surprised in the past actually where I've looked at some and gone, this might be a bit of a mismatch, and I've had some guy who's 5'8" against some guy who's 6'1". It's like the guy who's 5'8" is won. Do you know what I mean? Not naming any names. But yeah, I do strongly believe that matchmaking has become a lot easier over the last 2 years.
I tell you to take it back. I don't know if it was because it was the theme Peaky Blinders, but you know, with the dressing on the tables, everybody sort of dressed a bit peaked up to the nines. Yeah. For me, that event is the one that we've bottled and then looked to, like, for me anyway, use as the template.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Sorry, just to add to that, the team by that point that we had working for the event, obviously we've had certain people that have worked every event for us, but that was the one where we had obviously Foxy, Silver, Chris, Sophia, Craig on the filming, Keith on the cameras. Like that, by that stage we had that team nailed, and that bar team and that service team on the floor, which just added to that whole production of the event. I think that was the first one that we really nailed in terms of team. So massive shout out to those guys.
Yeah, 100%. It's mad to think that we've got a team.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, is like from sat there in Norman's to now not only having venues but a team. It's mad. It's mad to create something and then see where it's growing, and also having a sense of where it's going. I mean, after the first birthday, we wanted to dip our toe back in Manchester, and we wanted to look at an idea of a War of the Roses. I think I'll lead in a sense of, I felt the notion was good. I felt like the idea and its execution and the bouts were good. I just don't think it caught the imagination like I felt it was gonna. Not to say that it
I think what we felt was hardest was, well, for both events we'll talk about them as a joint. Yeah, for both events. So for instance, the one in Manchester, I think we thought it was going to be a lot easier to get Leeds heads to come across, and vice versa for the one in Leeds. I still do think that there were two fantastic events, two fantastic locations again. Fairfield Social in Manchester, great venue.
And this still went off. I mean, this is the thing, is like, when I mean now that, like,
a massive shout out to Pedro's as well in Manchester for that sponsor.
Always got Pedro's in my heart.
That was the first time we had a ring mat printed. How sick did that look? That was top. But yeah, massive shout out to them for helping us put the first War of the Roses together in Manchester, definitely. Yeah,
I mean, the War of the Roses, I'd like to think that maybe further down the line it's something that we could maybe incorporate. Yeah. But I'd say, like, what's mad is that, you know, as we are stepping out, it's still like maybe event 5 and event 6.
Yeah.
So it's good to try these things because it just felt organic to grow in that direction. But I feel like, again, when church, that birthday was the template for me, and I felt like it was good to try, but maybe reevaluating the success of that, and I'd say, like, you know, after the 2 that we did over the summer, it were a good point to maybe like reevaluate. You know, we'd just done event with some good spaces in between, but as we say, we're learning.
It's following that, where our initial plans was to go back to Manchester, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but I'd say it was more an essence of, you know, we're 6 or 7 events in at that point, and we've just been growing, learning, and building as we've been carrying on. And then I felt it was nice after the May one, so the second War of the Roses one again at church. Great venue, great event. Shout out to Taku.
Yeah.
Like, Taku's a warrior, representing
We had
Manchester.
some great fights.
Yeah, because it was good. Team Manchester, Team Leeds or Yorkshire, Red Rose, White Rose.
Because I think we're going back, actually, we had that sort of idea for War of the Roses, because obviously I touched before on having reserve fighters to fill gaps, but we didn't have that for Manchester. So when we did have a couple of heads drop, we did actually have some Leeds boys come over, didn't we?
Yeah. We split the
Alex
cards.
Hutton, we had Evie, and we had Alex Thompson.
Yeah.
So I think that initially planted the seed for that War of the Roses event.
Yeah.
Because we did have some Leeds people.
At the Manchester
at
Victoria Boston,
the original
right.
Manchester one, yeah. But some of the fights we had for the War of the Roses, like some of the best.
Yeah, technically.
Like Evie and Taku, absolute war. That was only stopped because there was too much blood. Like Evie could have carried on.
Well, look at Steve John and Dean. One of the maddest grudge matches that we've probably had. In the ring.
Steve Joe won in Manchester.
Yeah.
Dean thought it was controversial, but they both agreed to a rematch, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was a fantastic fight.
We tasted it. And obviously, even though there was a lot of the rivalry and a touch of bitterness, there was still the camaraderie and everything that, you know what I mean? And they speak, you know, so that was class. But I feel what I was sort of alluding to is that, you know, we loved what we did in Manchester, but I felt like after the May War of the Roses, we just had his foot on the pedal because it was just looking to grow. And then it was a nice refreshing air to just be able to take our foot off the pedal, sort of reevaluate and look what was the best for IBE, look at the pros. I mean, as we say, from its conception to heading into our second birthday, it's just been learning, growing, getting better, seeing what we wanted to develop. And I'd say over the summer we had some real clarity in the idea and the vision of where we wanted to take it. And I feel like one of the main growths that we took out of that is that, you know, we loved our experience in Manchester, we've loved the support in Manchester, and we definitely further down the line like to step back in there as a more established IBE and look to you know, gain the interest in there again, because we had good support. But keeping it 100, there's just nothing like Leeds. There's nothing like the way. There's nothing like the way that it's just been taken on, and it's like a football club in a sense. Do you know how people speak about IBE? It's proper a badge of honour. It is like a football club. It's right, I've heard you doing it again. Where's it going to be? What's happening? And rather than split it, because maybe you know, just thinking of how it is if you've got one in Leeds and you've got one in Manchester and people are travelling from Manchester, it feels like it's a bit of a disconnect. Whereas now that we remain in Leeds, we're able to not just tiptoe from one city to another.
Just solidify the brand.
We're able to add another event in Leeds, so there's going to be 3 events, and now people know it's back to back.
And it won't be overrun. That was the initial when a couple of years ago we didn't want to do too many. We don't want to, but the want's there. And if we can change up events like this next one that we've got coming up, and adding different concepts to each event, and just keeping it fresh. And I think we've both got ideas of where we want to, what sort of events we want to put on in terms of concepts and whatnot. I mean, doing one that's outdoor is a big one of mine, and it's getting that one nailed for the future. I think doing one in the summer, fucking unreal.
It would be class outdoor.
Unreal, and again, I'd want to get that right. As do you. they want to be there for it, which makes it's a little bit different.
Do you know what I'd like to do it on like Bridgewater's helicopter landing pad or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like someone that's proper like entourage.
But do you remember that place we went down to have a look at last year? I can't remember, near Whitehall, down that way. And there's a space on the roof. We never got up to actually see it, did we? Because the guy was like, "No, you won't be able to do it." But that was where that rooftop thing came from.
Yeah, rooftop would be banging.
But yeah, summer outdoor party on a bit of land somewhere. Good fucking unreal. That's next level.
But then obviously, you know, just how we've been speaking then, that's how the ideas came forth. Not only just wanting to remain in Leeds, but further raise our game again. How can we eclipse what we've done before, take it to another level, remind the people of Leeds the true essence of IBE, the soul of IBE, and that we're returning with a bang. So one of the big things for me, well for you as well, was the rebranding.
Yeah, definitely.
So you know we want to come out in a sense of stepping up our game, so to speak.
Yeah.
So one person that, before we touch on the logo design, we've got to pay homage to is probably I'd say our third member, man, which is Chip.
Yeah. Yeah.
The write-ups that he does in the programmes.
Yeah,
the
going back to day one, mate. Going back to day one and as having that initial meeting with him. I think I put a post on Facebook before we had any sort of major ideas. We had the idea of IBE, but of where we wanted it to go or anything like that. I put a post on just asking if anybody could help us out with some design ideas, and obviously Chip came forward and stepped up and created that. We said we wanted a logo with some boxing gloves, incorporate some elements of bartending, so you've got the bottle tops and the bar blades, and he came up with that first logo, and I loved it, still love it. But then obviously looking to rebrand, I think what he's done moving forward before that is, like you say, the programme write-ups.
Well, with JQ sort of started it, wasn't it? Shout out Speakman, man. Speakman's a funny guy.
I think it was funny, and Speakman set the tone really for them write-ups, because we had the idea of producing a programme for each fight, and then each with a little bio for each participant, and I don't even know where the idea came from for it. It was like, we want a bio, but we don't want it to be real. We just want it to be a bit of a laugh. And I think the first ones in the first programme that Jake did, they were like maybe a sentence long. Two sentences long. And then obviously as time's progressed with the event, I think just due to time and work for Speakman, Chip decided to take over on not only the design of the programme, but the actual putting together of the write-ups. And the write-ups have gone from being a sentence long to being half a page.
It's its own sort of like cult thing about it, innit? The people who like collective.
The amount of times we sit down with Chip though, coming up to a week and a half before programmes go to print, and we're like, you can't say that, mate. You can't say that, mate. You can't say it, and we have to sit down and redo them all. So massive shout out to Chip though, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Boom.
So man, Tuesday, 12th November.
Exciting times.
Yeah, man, we've got our new logo.
Yeah.
We've found a new venue, which I think a lot of people in Leeds might not even know exists, which is exciting.
A lot of people I've been speaking to about it are unaware of the venue, which makes it a bit more exciting because they're going to be turning up, and we've been there, and it's gorgeous, isn't it?
It felt like home, didn't it?
It did feel like home. It was like the first venue I've gone in and gone, I want to do more events here. Obviously, we've got Connex and stuff in the past that we want to do them again, but like, if we were to select one as a home, I can see that, I already envisage it as been home.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, Corn Exchange, Town Hall, Church, etc., other people have been able to go in and sort of stamp their identity on it, but this will be us.
Yeah.
Pretty much first brand of its type, especially, but maybe one of the first brands going into the venue.
Yeah,
so people will straight away associate it with IBE, and that's why I think it could be home.
I think because of obviously their clientele, their usual clientele are weddings and corporates, and they've not done boxing events previously. And yeah, I think for us to go in there and sort of introduce people of our industry to to that venue is one reason why the venue itself wants us to be there as well.
Yes.
They want to showcase their venue.
So shout out to New Craven Hall.
Yeah, and Ben and his wife.
Yeah, man. And also as well, so it used to be Vox, didn't it, next to Ivy Studios.
Yeah.
So Vox used to be a club just on the periphery of the city centre, but what they've done with the venue, you know, like exposed brick walls and just how I like it, low ceilings.
Yeah, them like copper sort of mirrors they've got in there. There's really strange looking mirrors, but they're just unbelievable.
Yeah, man. I really think it's going to have the wow factor again. I believe it's going to have the intimacy. It's almost like, you know what we were saying before, where you can be like, that venue was our best, or that event was our best, but we could say that about everyone.
Yeah.
It's because there's snippets of each event that you'd like to stitch together, and I feel like this venue sort of houses all that.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
I agree. Can't wait for New Craven Hall.
And not only that, we've obviously come back through with our new branding with the logo, so it feels like it's a step up from our personal efforts, and obviously for the identity of the brand as well. But one inclusion, which might be around and about for people to know, is the belt, man.
The belt.
It's the belt. We, you know, it's been an idea from day dot, but you know, to not only have people on board with it, but to see it come to fruition. It's crazy. So
do you know what? We knew we wanted a belt. We looked at loads online, didn't we? And we got Chip to design the artwork for it, which looks incredible. But it wasn't until it arrived that I thought, wow, like the quality is there, isn't it? It's gonna up that event. It's gonna make it next level.
Well, that's it.
I never thought it would look as good as it looks.
It does look stunning. It does, and then even at the press conference when we unveiled it, the people who were taking part in the tournament, you saw their eyes light up. Someone was saying, you know, I want that around my waist. And again, I just feel like in 2 years to see where we've come to now on our second birthday to have a title on the line.
Exactly. I think just to touch on it and explain it a little bit, like the reason why we've come up to it is again because we want to just try a different concept. And it's prize fighter style tournament, Grand Prix tournament, however you want to call it. I've been to lots of events and boxing events and MMA events where it's a major part of an event is to do a tournament within a fight card. So we've got four people that we know very well, 4 people that have worked with us previously, fighting for the title, and then 2 semi-finals and a final in one night.
So 2 semis at the start of the night and then a final at the end as well.
Yeah, so we've got the 2 series and we've got 9 or 10 fights and then the final. So the winners of the semis are going to be fighting twice, obviously, which is a whole new element to the fitness side.
It's incredible to think where we've grown, and obviously there's discussions further down the line for other belts that we could.
But as soon as that arrived, I was thinking, right, what's next?
Well, that's it.
What's next on the belt?
It just, you know, the visions and the ideas that we have for IBE. It's just always to constantly add back to the prestige of the event, and this belt cements that second birthday. We're going to be crowning an IBE Leeds champion.
I'm going to go full Dana White and strap it around the waist.
It's stunning. But away from that as well, we've got an interesting fight card, haven't we? We've got one of the greatest call-outs potentially in IBE history.
Costin and Crowther. Big shout out to them boys. Obviously Costin was a major part in the Leeds industry in previous years before he obviously bettered his career, moved down south and all that. But the prodigal son returns, he's coming back to Leeds, he's moved back to Leeds already. And Crowther obviously a major influence in the Leeds industry now. Really good friends. And they've had their own artwork and everything posted.
Yeah, I just was going to touch on that. I think the way that they've taken it on and designed their own artwork, so a face-off poster, they're really getting involved with the idea of it.
They look like the same person.
Yeah, they do. in the head guards, we're not going to know who's who, like, are we? But
one of the funniest first ever training sessions I think I've ever taken is Costin went down with an injury, hurt his knee or his groin, apparently. And then Costin Crowther had gone down. Costin comes for his and gets punched in the stomach and nearly shits himself.
I think he confirmed at the press conference that he actually
did. He didn't nearly do it, definitely did it. No, but what a matchup that's going to be. So that's sort of co-main event.
Yeah,
before the final.
Yeah.
We've also got Ducker returning, Sam Ducker, massive shout out to him. He fought in our first event as well against Mr. Silver. But yeah, he's fighting, because obviously Ducker's, since that event, he trained before that first event 2 years ago, and then he's just not stopped training. So his ability has really, really come on. And he was actually going to, I don't know if I told you this, but he was actually going to be competing in like a inter-club tournament for his boxing gym down south. But then he asked us if he could be part of IBE. It was around the same date. So but yeah, we've got him matched up with a guy called Lee from Revolution Electric Press, Lee Bertram, who has got a lot of history in boxing from being a kid. So stylistically, I think that's going to be one of the fights at night. I'm excited to see that one.
I know that when you were sort of matchmaking away, you felt that there were a lot that stood out on this card, didn't you? So, I mean, a lot of people who were coming to the event have got a lot to be excited for, because it's not only the matchups, but I feel like one thing you do amazing with the match card as well is the build and build and build as well.
Yeah, I think obviously what we've got some returning fighters as we do each event, and it's good. It's been amazing to see how they've come on. Joe Heppel, for instance, his fitness is amazing. He turned up in these little black shorts and these quads that have kept come from nowhere. I was like, wow, so strong. The two girls we've got, the two girls that we've got sort of paired up to fight each other on this one should be fun. Obviously, Katie from Taste and Becky from D&D. It's funny watching them spar, because they're the two people that are apologising to everybody at the moment. It's like, but then they take a whack and they give one back in training. So yeah, we've got a few newbies and a few returning fighters. Exciting.
I'm excited because now that we have made this pledge and commitment to Leeds, obviously we have done what we wanted to do in stepping up. The presence of it, the look of it, real feels like now we as IBE, from that first meeting in Normans to where we are now, we are really assured in the ideology of the brand, and what it stands for, its ethic, the way that it's grown, in the sense that it's helped along the line of people still maintaining the training beforehand. The excitement there is people wanting to get involved. We've even got people that are wanting to reach out for our future events. You know,
we've already got a list of 40 plus people for the next event who we couldn't squeeze onto this show, because the interest has just grown massively, which is rather humbling, really.
I'm excited, my friend. I'm excited. 12th November,
boom,
our second birthday. Ricky Burwell,
Ben Brown.
We've done it, mate.
Yes, we have.
Should be proud, brother. Bell, let's celebrate with the belt. A champion will be crowned.
The IBE Leeds champion. Boom.